Welcome to the Provider Enrollment Application Guide, a presentation meant to help you enroll as a provider with Medicaid. In this video, you will be shown the online application process, step by step, just like you will complete it when you enroll. Let's get started. In order to sign up as a Medicaid provider, you will need to complete an application. Online applications can be completed on the Arkansas Medicaid website. On the site, you will click the provider information link on the left side of the page. Then hover over Enrollment and click on Enrollment Application. This takes you to the provider portal. On the portal home page, click Enrollment Application to open the online application form. The application is split into steps, and you must have some information on hand in order to complete it, including a National Provider Identifier, or NPI, address and zip code, taxonomy codes, tax ID, which can be an employee identification number or social security number, and license number. There are other mandatory and optional documents to be included depending on your type and specialty. To see what documents are necessary, you can choose an enrollment type, provider type, and specialty from the drop-downs. The documents will then populate in the box below. Once these have been gathered, the application can be started. Click Continue to do so. The first step in the application is Request Information. Notice that some fields have asterisks next to them. You will see this throughout the application. The fields with asterisks are required, and they must be filled in order to submit the application. During this step, choose Enrollment Type, which can be atypical, group, individual, or individual within group. Next, key the provider type number. The type will then populate below, and you can click on it to fill the field. Next, type NPI, zip code, and primary taxonomy. If you are an individual provider, Social Security number will be automatically chosen for tax ID. This cannot be changed. All individual providers must enroll using Social Security number. Individual providers will use date of birth as the tax ID effective date. Group and organizational providers will use the date on their IRS letter. Next part of the section is contact information. You must be sure to use a valid phone number and email address for correspondence. Final part asks for a password and answers to 3 security questions. This information cannot be reset or recovered, so you must be sure you will recall the information later. When done, click Continue. A message pops up that gives us a tracking number for the application. You will also receive an email with the tracking number, as well as a link back to the provider portal. To continue the application, click OK. The next section is Specialties. In this section, you will enter your 2-digit specialty code. If you do not know your specialty, you can begin to type in the code or name, and it will be populated. The Add button must be clicked first, and at least one specialty must be listed as primary. You will repeat the steps if you have multiple specialties. Additional taxonomies is only for providers who have more than one taxonomy code. If you only use one taxonomy code, leave this section blank and continue. Addresses is used to key all addresses associated with the provider. Enter the service location address first. The address must be verified before being added. Click Verify Address. A dialog box will appear noting whether the address has been entered in a valid format. If you want to keep the keyed address, click Use Original Address. If you want to use the address suggested by USPS, click Select. Then add email and applicable phone information. Finally, select an option from the Accepting New Patients drop-down, then click the Add button. You will repeat the process for all addresses. To repeat the process, click the plus button. Once finished adding addresses, click Continue. For provider identification, enter all applicable information for the enrolling provider. In the tax name field, enter your name. If the provider is a group, enter the name of the business. Next is license information. If you do not know the license issuing board, select Unknown from the drop-down. Remember, the Add button must be clicked after entering the license information. Medicare participation and CLIA certification should not be filled out unless they are required for your type. When done, click Continue. Next, select a language. The effective date will be the date of the application, and the expiration date will be 12/31/2299. Next is EFT enrollment, where you will choose whether to have Medicaid payments electronically deposited. All groups and organizations must sign up for direct deposit. Individuals who are not linked to a group must also sign up for direct deposit. Individuals linked to a group that will be billing for them, however, do not have to choose direct deposit. For other information, only enter applicable information. If your type does not have any certifications, you will not enter anything, regardless of the red asterisks. If any addendums are needed, they will be listed on the Addendums section. If there are none, click Continue. For ownership and controlling interest, choose the appropriate ownership type for the enrolling provider. Entering information for an individual, the effective date will be the provider's date of birth. For a group, use the date on the IRS letter. Be sure to click Save after entering the information. Enter individual relationships information if applicable. Otherwise, click Continue. On the Disclosure section, click on each disclosure name to open the item and choose a response. Enrolling as an individual, select No in the Managing Employees section. If it is a group, select Yes, and enter the information for the location manager. Then click Add, then Submit. Is APSDT. Last is significant business transactions. The status shows as completed for each item. After completing all items, click Continue. Attachments and Fees allows you to add any additional documentation necessary to the application. Also, if an application fee is required for the type and specialty, it can be included. Timely processing. All required documents, except fingerprints, must be uploaded as attachments. Attachments are listed as such in the attachment type drop-down and must be included before continuing the application. Any attachment listed as optional is not required. You will read the text and then scroll down to the bottom to accept the agreement. Checkbox next to I accept. You acknowledge that the typed signature is equivalent to a written signature. Individual, type your name into the Your Signature box. If enrolling a group, type the name of the person that is completing the application. This must be a person who is authorized to sign on behalf of the group. Submit. You will see a summary of the application. If the application is correct, scroll down to the bottom to confirm. Will pop up a message reminding you to print a hard copy of the application for your records. To print a copy, click Cancel, Print, and then reconfirm the application. If it has already printed, click OK. Once you have confirmed, you will receive a tracking number for your records, as well as a link to print a cover page of the application for records. When done, click the Exit button to exit the application. If you later need to check the status of a submitted application, you can do so from the home page by clicking the provider link on the left side of the page. On the provider enrollment page, click the Enrollment Status link. In the fields on the Enrollment Status page, type the tracking number received at the end of the enrollment process, and also tax ID. You will see a summary of the application status below. If the application has been RTP'd, or returned to provider, you will see a list of any documents that must be resubmitted next to the Notes heading. Upload the completed, correct documents by returning to the Provider Enrollment section of the portal, clicking Resume Application, and logging in using the ATN and credentials from your application. Upload the necessary documents in the Attachments and Fees section and click Confirm at the end of the application. This will resubmit the application for review. There are some tips to remember when completing an enrollment application. All individual providers must list their Social Security number on a W-9 form. AR Medicaid does not use the W-9 for billing purposes. It is only used to identify the enrolling provider. For example, if enrolling as a physician, the provider will only enter the Social Security number throughout the application, not a tax ID. If enrolling a group, the provider only needs to list the tax ID throughout the application and on the W-9. The online application has red asterisks in places that may not apply to a provider's type. If it does not apply to the provider's type, they will ignore the asterisks, leave the fields blank, and continue. Providers must remember their passwords and security question answers to the online application. These cannot be reset or recovered. If physically mailing in the attachments for an online application, providers must mail them to provider enrollment within 2 weeks of submitting the online application. If initial attachments are not received within 2 weeks, the application will be canceled and the provider will have to start another application. If a provider's number is active, they must upload any updates to the provider portal. If a provider's number is not active, they may fax or mail your update to provider enrollment. You must include your 9-digit AR Medicaid provider number on your updates. Provider enrollment does not contact providers about their updates. It is the provider's responsibility to contact provider enrollment to verify if an update has been received and processed. A faxed confirmation report does not mean your fax was successfully received and updated. The update will be processed within 48 hours of being received. Individual providers must sign their own documents. For example, the provider's signature must be on the address change form, not that of a lawyer signing on the provider's behalf. When submitting an EFT form, the name on the voided check or bank letter must match the name of the enrolling provider. When completing the PCP form, the PCP can only select up to 20 counties. The provider may have managed care fees paid to an individual provider number, or to a group the provider is linked to. If the fees are going to an individual number, the quarterly managed care fee checks will be paid to individuals, not to the group. An IRS letter must be provided for each tax ID listed on the DMS 675 under the Corporation section. There are multiple enrollment types to remember. Atypical providers are those who do not require an